Healing stream engaged.
Hi everyone, this is Sam Greenblatt with Esports Psych. Recently I've conducted an interview with Elizabeth, or EeveeA, one of the most prominent Mercy players in Overwatch, and one of the most prominent transgender individuals that plays Overwatch as well. We did this interview kind of to bring some awareness about some of the unique challenges and characteristics of what it is to be a streamer who identifies within the LGBTQ community. I hope you enjoy, and without further ado, here's the interview. If you'd like any of our information, you could find it below.
Hey, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak with me. I had contacted you because you are certainly one of the most prominent players in Overwatch that has come out as somebody who identifies as within the LGBTQIA community, specifically as a transgender person. And I thought that a lot of people could benefit from hearing what you had to say on the topic. You're also very well known as one of the, if not the best, Mercy player in Overwatch. I wanted to start off by asking more about your process in coming out to this community. It happened about 5 or 6 months ago. What was the initial reaction to the community here?
I'd say the initial reaction was extremely positive. There's a lot of different bubbles, I'd say, of reaction. Even some to that I'm still finding out to this day. Like, there was a giant bubble of reaction on Twitter. There was a very large bubble of reaction on Tumblr. You know, subtly around the community and throughout Discords. A pocket I didn't even know about until a couple of days ago on a few subreddits that got thousands and thousands of upvotes that I didn't even have any idea about at the time. So it's still interesting that even to this day that I'm still finding out different areas that people were reacting and, you know, voicing their opinion on it, and almost all positive.
That's amazing. So when you say bubbles, do you mean on different platforms, or were there different bubbles of opinions?
I would say that there's definitely both, but I was referring to on different platforms.
So what are some of the positive things that people had to say about this?
There's definitely the primary angle of people are happy that there is now LGBT representation in the Overwatch community, and that generally speaking people are also inherently happy that more streamers are being a little bit more open about themselves, which a lot of viewers don't feel like they're getting enough of. But there's also another angle that a lot of people have, and I would say probably about half are people that are just like, well, I'm glad they're being open with themselves about it, but that they don't care, which is, in my opinion, a good thing, because as long as they're inherently not being bigoted.
Right. Like, they're not actively supporting or giving their support in these situations, but they're at least happy for you. And it's also interesting to note that some of the reactions have been, like, aside from the topic itself, people have been interested just because you're opening up and they want to see more streamers being open and honest about who they are and what's going on in their lives.
Yeah, I would say that with the LGBT community at the moment, there's a lot of people who are still questioning and looking around for others like them, and that means for a lot of trans people, they've come to my stream and they start to look up to me because I'm in a position where I have been successful on Twitch. I am, you know, effectively speaking, doing well for myself, and that I am trans. And so a lot of people see that as inspiring. In that specific regard, I don't like talking about it too much, because I don't want to get to a point where, I especially don't want my audience to be following me because of one reason instead of following me for me.
Right. When I discussed these things initially with you online, one of the things that I remember you saying was that you didn't want to be known as a transgender streamer, but a streamer who also happened to be transgender.
Yes, absolutely. And I feel like that applies to a lot of things in life. In a very, very poor example, you don't in media, unfortunately, most oftentimes the LGBT character is remembered just because they were LGBT, rather than a character that happened to be LGBT.
Right, right. It becomes the forefront of their identity, and it almost replaces any other nuances that they have.
Yep, exactly.
Has this applied in any ways to the ways that you stream or interact with your fan base?
I would say that in general, like a very simple thing that I just did the other day, because I felt like moving forward, I don't want to constantly be talking about it, but when I do talk about trans related topics, I don't want to shy away from details as questioned if I feel like answering it. So, for example, I've only just recently enabled mature mode in my stream because I don't want to shy away from details if that's what people are questioning about. So, like, that's one thing I've had to change. I've had to change a lot of my rules to be simultaneously more common sense in regards to LGBT, but as well as less restricting overall. I used to have like 13 rules. Now I have 6, but one of the rules is basically just follow the Twitch TOS, which covers a lot. So depending on how you look at it, I'm constantly trying to evolve my rules with my community to be more welcoming, but still enable us to crack down on things we don't welcome in our community.
Okay, so being more welcoming to people in terms of curiosity, or expressing opinions that maybe not the whole majority agrees with, but still have some sort of hard line when people do cross those boundaries.
Absolutely. And right now, I'm definitely working on allowing those people who are who question LGBT in general, to voice their opinion. And as long as they do so respectfully, I don't want them to feel unwelcome doing so. Which is why, even inherently, I've made it one of those 6 rules for my viewers to not correct someone on my pronouns.
So why is that?
I feel like every example I've seen in my chat room where someone corrects my pronouns, the person either then gets into the argumentative state because they feel like they need to defend themselves of like, oh, well, that's why I thought, or and they clam up in their opinions, or they just don't respond ever again and they just leave the stream.
Right. So you found that kind of that dogmatic response of shaming somebody when they've said something that maybe even unknowingly they didn't know was, not considered PC or something like that, has had a negative effect. It kind of pushes them further away rather than helping them find a middle ground of understanding.
Absolutely. And so by not correcting people, you have the crowd reaction via if, a couple dozen people in chat are referring to me with feminine pronouns, people are going to pick up on that quickly. Either they're going to pick it up and adopt it, they're going to look into it further, they're going to ask questions, which I feel like the best form of learning comes from questioning. From curiosity is, in my opinion, is the key thing when it comes to learning. So rather than pushing the quote-unquote correct viewpoint onto them, which even then sounds wrong, it's allowing them to figure it out themselves or question it. And I find that almost in every case that allows for a more positive outcome.
That's amazing. In addition to figuring out these nuances in your chat, did you have any other obstacles that are uniquely related to, your identity?
As far as things that have changed via me coming out and being a trans streamer, it would be probably more akin to along the lines of regarding me being a Mercy player. With me being a Mercy player before coming out, I was very vocal about me being not gay because because people would instantly, of course, go along the lines of I liked men, which I really, really do not. And so I was, with me being so stern about not being gay, and people constantly asking it, people used me as the example of the not gay male Mercy main. And especially towards the very beginning, another streamer such as Vale was not around at that time. And so people started to mainly use me as the example of the male not gay mercy main. So after a while, I really kept that going. And I kept getting concerns about whether or not to come out before I moved. I didn't. My mom occasionally, kept tabs on me on stream and on social media, and I at the start hadn't told her yet. So I had to get that out of the way of telling my mother. And then I was intending to do it when I moved. And at the start, it was originally planning to move like early 2020. Plans moved very quickly.
Yeah.
I then was gonna move in a few months at that time, and then I had my wisdom teeth removed, and I was very drugged. I didn't even remember walking out of the building. My first memory was basically leaving the parking lot in a vehicle, and I don't know what happened, but I immediately felt the need to be on Twitter for some stupid reason. And that started the chain of tweets that I made, which anybody can go and check right now on my Twitter profile. I have a moment on Twitter, and you can check the chain of tweets, and you can very easily tell that it was drugged. But that was inherently a panic moment for me once I realized what I had done. But then I immediately damage controlled and like trying to clarify certain things. I didn't mean to come out months before I moved, and so that I was gonna start laying seeds of like allowing people trying to figure it out, because I didn't want it to be a blunt, I'm not gay, I'm the male mercy example, to I'm a perfect example of a gay female mercy player. And so even in that regard, I realized I made it worse. A lot of people say, like, I've noted, this was before I even came out, but this even now is even worse in my opinion, of the example being male mercy players who act effeminately are transgender now, and that's unfortunately now another trend that's being caused. So in a way I've made it worse, but at the same time I feel like I've caused a lot of people to be more open about themselves, and in a way stereotypes enforced onto mercy players, more people are just saying screw it and embracing it in a way, which overall can be seen as a good thing. But it's still hard, because I feel one of my main causes that I've been going for on my stream is I want to encourage as many people as possible to use voice communication in your team. And that's always what I've been going for in my stream, encouraging others to use voice comms and communicate with your team as much as possible, but with more people as well trying to be more true to themselves. It's causing even more backlash in matches. So it's a wild balance of how I got to where I am, as well as how it's affecting others and making others want to be more true to themselves, but getting more backlash because of it. It's really an unfortunate mix of situations.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a complicated system, and at the same time, the increased visibility certainly does seem to be having at least an initial, in some spheres, like a backlash effect. And at the same time, it's such an integral step towards, progress and acceptance to have visible figures.
I mean, I've dealt with a lot of random unwanted attention in game because of all this, of like, the way I look at it personally is online in game, you have a name in game for a reason, right?
Right.
So a lot of people mock me and say, how was your day, Elizabeth? That kind of thing. And I'm like, just chill out, play the game, use my online alias. That's what it's there for. That's just like a super, super basic example, but it has gotten pretty bad.
Almost in the way that people sometimes call transgender people by their preferred gender pronouns, but in kind of a mocking, infantilizing kind of way.
Absolutely. Like, picture any masculine version of pronoun, but a normal sentence, and all the masculine pronouns are caps.
Right, right.
I'd say Twitter's been the worst of it, just for obvious reasons, but it's also been decently bad in game.
What are those obvious reasons?
People are, in my opinion, more quick to create alt accounts on Twitter and say what they want, or they don't, or it's just their main account and their. I say this loosely and not offensively, but they're follower wise a nobody on Twitter, and so they don't care what they tweet and they just say whatever they want, or they hide behind the guise of it's fact, you're mentally ill, you're just some tranny, and you're lying to yourself, and you're encouraging mental illness. There's a large list of ones.
So that said, as such a visible figure, do you have any advice that you would give to transgendered gamers or even Mercy mains in general? Of course, those being different populations.
I would say in general, just be yourself. And if that person chooses to purposely be offensive because they want to, just know that they're trying to get to you in what they think is your weakness.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people are attacking. Whenever someone tries to insult another person, almost always they just go for whatever they think is your weakest point. Don't let it be your weakest point. You know who you are. You know how you feel and how you want to express yourself. Just because they see that doesn't mean that is your weakness.
It's amazing. I mean, those are beautiful words.